All right, just want to recap week 7. I'm going to share my screen here for a moment. I'd like to pull up the ACMP Standard document. And let me share my screen. Boom, boom, boom. There we are. So last week we went over, or in my intro video for this week, we went over the organizational change journey, right? And the ACMP standard reading that we have for this week, pages 49 through 75, we're all about this, thinking about your change strategy and what it needs to have in it in order to address the needs of your implementation, right? You're going to be implementing a lot of stuff. It's going to be very chaotic during that implementation. Anybody working in IT knows, like, there's a lot of late nights and you know, all sorts of craziness going on leading up to the launch of a new release. And then immediately after that launch of the release, there's all sorts of bugs and problems and stuff that happens at and everybody's scrambling. And then for the next week or two, it's a little crazy as well. So it's a chaotic time. So you don't want to wait until you get to the implementation in order to think about these things. You want to plan ahead and think about all those different items that were in that ACMP standard document. So I'm going to pull that up and just go over that real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know you guys are busy as we head into week 8, wrap up week 7. But but pages 49, starting on page 49 and going through page 75, the focus here is talking about what should be in the change management plan, or change, for us, it's the change strategy presentation, but they're calling it the change management plan, which is essentially the same thing. They just, you know, go by different names. The change management plan, right, has to have, doesn't have to, but it should have a lot of these things in it. So they've listed them out here: resource plan, sponsorship plan, so forth. And then there's a page for each of those. So resource plan, you're going to need people, right? And we've talked about the importance of, and you've talked about the importance of people in change management and how you got to get help. You can't just try to do this all by yourself. You got to get help from your sponsors. You got to get help from the innovators in the organization, the heads, the key stakeholders, the mavens and so forth. So, and the salespeople, you got to get them all involved in helping you drive this change forward, right? And you're building what Cotter called a coalition, a powerful coalition, or what you may have heard in the past called the coalition of the willing, right? You're trying to get a bunch of people who don't have to help you, but if you can get them to believe in your project enough, if they can, in the change that you're trying to bring about, if you can persuade them and get them excited about it, they will dedicate some of their time to helping you and helping you advocate for it and push for it and so forth. So the resource plan is real important. So what human resources are you going to need? What physical resources are you going to need? Are you going to be doing launch events, for example, and you're going to need physical facilities for that? Is some of the equipment, maybe you're going to be using equipment that has to get moved in and changed and so forth. So there are physical resources that may be part of your solution, and there may be physical resources part of your change strategy. So you got to think about that kind of stuff in advance, right? And maybe not all of it has to be upfront in your change strategy presentation, but between then and the implementation, you need to have thought through these things: what people you're going to need, what physical resources you're going to need. And of course, you can't be in an organization and drive any sort of change without thinking about the costs. You have to think about financial resources and how much money you're asking your sponsors to invest in what you're doing. And you need to manage that money wisely to make sure it lasts for the whole shebang. So resources is very important. Sponsorship plans, you need to manage those sponsors that you have. They gave you the green light to move forward with the initiative. They've given you a second green light to move forward with the change strategy. You need to keep them close now. Right? It'd be very easy for them to sort of now peel away and say, okay, we approved it, gave you the money, gave you the approval, go have at it. And then they just sort of walk away and leave you alone. That's not what you want. Change initiative is a team sport. So you got to bring those sponsors in and keep them in and keep them involved in what you're doing and use them to help you break down some of the barriers, open doors for you, and provide very visible support. You want them to be the poster children for these for this change initiative, so that they are their faces are all over it, and you're leveraging their formal authority, as Cialdini suggested, right? And so you want to leverage that as much as you can. So sponsors are very important. You got to keep them engaged, and you should have a plan for that. Otherwise, by default, what happens is they disengage. And that's why these plans are important. Same with stakeholder management or stakeholder engagement. You're going to have people that you brought in addition to your sponsors. They're one type of stakeholder, but the other stakeholders are the different target groups that you're going after. The people who manage those different target groups, they are stakeholders. There's a lot of people that are stakeholders, but there are certain ones who are key stakeholders. They're the ones you really need to help you. You know, if you're going to have a learning and development component to your change strategy, you're probably going to need whoever heads up learning and development to be a key stakeholder for you, right? To be really involved. If you're going to be implementing a new IT system, you're going to want someone from IT to be really involved in what you're doing. You may need someone from finance. You may need someone from human resources, whatever. You need to build this team. I think of it as the change team or the core team. They're the ones who you're going to be working with very closely all throughout this change initiative. And they're the ones who are going to help you make things happen and help you build and test and roll out stuff. So you got to have a plan for how you're going to engage and keep all those folks engaged in this process with you through the long haul. And in many cases, these folks don't have to help you. So they're helping you because they want to help you. They believe in the initiative. You got to make sure you have a plan for how you're going to sell them on it and get them involved and persuade them to help you and dedicate the time and resources to do that. So that's a big part of it, right? And sometimes you're talking to your peers, not so much people who report to you or people who are above you. You need to work with peers in order to make cross-functionally to make this happen. So stakeholder engagement, very important, and you have to have a plan for it. Communication plan, we've talked about that and the importance of that, and you can see some of the different elements that need to be in here. Key messaging is a very important concept in change management. You want to think about the key messages in advance and plan those out as you're creating your communication plan, targeting different groups with different types of communications. You also want to be thinking about what are the key messages that you're trying to push out to those different people. What is it you want them to be hearing and thinking about when they're receiving your communications? So that's a very important piece. Then there's the learning and development plan, and learning and development by itself has never solved any sort of a performance problem in an organization. It has never been the solution, or at least not a successful solution to anything. But learning and development can be really important components of a change strategy. So by themselves, you teach somebody something, that doesn't necessarily guarantee they're going to do it, right? But teaching them that thing is a prerequisite to get them to do it. Because if they don't have the capabilities, they don't have the knowledge and skills to do the thing, then they can't do the thing. So then it doesn't matter what other things you have in place. If you never taught them to do it and they don't know how, then they can't. So learning and development is important as an important component, just like the communication plan is an important component. And so within your organization, you might be talking to whoever heads up communications for the organization, getting their advice and their input on the communications components. And you might be talking to whoever heads up learning and development in your organization about how you build this learning and development out. The measurement, same thing. There may be people in your organization who specialize in analytics, or maybe that's what you do because you're an HR analytics person, or you're a sports analytics or healthcare analytics. Maybe measurement is your forte, and this is the part of the plan that you are actually driving yourself, which is great. But if not, you have to go and get some help from somebody who really understands measurement and can get access to the data and can do something with it, right? And create dashboards that you can use to drive behaviors for the initiative. So measurement, benefit realization, and then the sustainability plan, which we've talked about, right? And there's a lot of different components to that. And in terms of how you maintain the momentum, how you maintain the pressure to shift those late majority and laggards into this new set of behaviors. If you don't plan for that, then there's a good chance that those folks aren't going to get on board, and you're going to miss out on a large chunk of people not getting on board with the changes you want. So you really need to plan for that sustainability, very important piece. And then once you have those different elements in place, you need to be thinking about how do I execute on all this, and the execution of the building of all of the solutions and change strategy components and implementation of it. A lot of that really relies on good project management. So if you're not a good project manager, make sure you go get a good project manager to help you build out the project plan for how all this is going to come together, because you're dealing with multiple work streams, multiple departments that are helping you with learning and development, communications, analytics, right? And physical, you may be using physical space, you're using HR, right? You're leveraging a whole bunch of different functional groups within your organization, and you're rolling something out that involves at least two big work streams, which is one is the solution itself, and the other is the change strategy. So you're trying to build all this stuff out. You're going to need a small army of people helping you, probably internally and possibly external vendors as well. So you need help, and you also need organization. And your project manager or project managers can help you bring that organization to it. And this is what they do really well: is once you have a change solution and you have a change strategy, they're very good at then helping you figure out how to implement that, how to execute on that. What are all the different components of, what are all the different things that need to happen, and in what order and in what time frame, and with what budget. And they're great at managing that kind of stuff. Project management people aren't always, sometimes they're good at change management, but that's not their specialty. Their specialty is the project management. And if you as a change leader can bring to them, here's what I'm trying to change, here's the solution set, the ideas, and here is the change strategy that we're going to use, then a project manager can help you map all that out. So that's a very important marriage that you have there, that between change management and project management. That's a real linchpin. And then it's all about getting things reviewed and approved, tested, and so forth, and getting all that stuff lined up so that then you can begin to execute the change management plan or the change strategy, right, and begin to roll it out. So and there's factors to consider as you roll out each and every one of these things, as you execute on the resource plan and the communication plan, and the learning and development plan, the sponsorship plan, stakeholder engagement plan. There's a lot of details, execution details that you need to worry about. And this just helps you point you to and think about some of those different types of issues that you're going to run into and that you should be thinking about as you're executing on your plan. So we won't deal with that a whole lot in the course, but this week is a good opportunity for us to just, think about what's it going to take to have a successful implementation. And that's what the discussion really this week focused on. And hopefully you took advantage of this ACMP standard. It's a really great document, a really great organization. And for those of you who are interested in change management, I would encourage you to join ACMP and continue to keep in touch with them. They have conferences and events throughout the year. So I would definitely join and participate in that group if you're interested in change management. So anyway, so that's just a recap of the readings. That takes you out to page 75. And so I just wanted to go over that quickly with you so you get kind of what the purpose of the reading was and the discussion and how that fits into the organizational change journey. So hopefully you found that helpful. And now as we head into the final week of the course, I hope that everything's starting now to come together and gel together, and that this journey that we're on is starting to make sense. So look forward to seeing your projects and seeing your reflection papers in the coming week and so forth, and all the discussion that we're going to have. I always look forward to this week because I start to see the light bulbs turning on for you. So I'm very happy about that. So looking forward to it. Have yourself a good weekend. Take care.